What does the phrase, "it's never too late," really mean? My name is TK, and in this series, I'm hoping to shed light on how individuals rise above, own their realities, and overcome obstacles. Have you ever asked yourself, why is it that people are not able to look past mistakes despite witnessing one's emotional pain? This season, I'll be interviewing individuals in different areas and industries to explore their sometimes controversial views and why they feel it's never too late to change, follow their dreams, and walk in purpose. Hello, everybody. Welcome again to yet another week of the Back and Forth TV podcast. I'm your host, TK, and on this podcast, we believe that it's never too late to change any circumstance or situation. For those of you that are watching today, we're definitely going through this live on Facebook. Make sure that you like and share with all of your friends. Also, please feel free to leave comments or questions that you have. I'll make sure to try to get most of those answered as we go along. This podcast, it does stream on all major platforms. Okay. So Apple, Google, Spotify, whatever it is that you use, just make sure that you subscribe to it, and that also that you make sure that you rate and review it, because we want to make sure that we get our message out to as many people as we possibly can. And it also makes the podcast more discoverable. Also, make sure that you like and follow us on social media, so that way you can keep up with what's going on with the show. There's a lot of different changes that'll be coming up, and so we want to make sure that you guys stay in the loop. So make sure you follow Back and Forth TV on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and also YouTube. The handle is just Back and Forth TV. It's the same for pretty much all the platforms. Make sure you like and follow and share with all of your friends. Also, Patreon. So patreon.com/BFTV is where you want to go if you'd like to support the show. It just goes to pay for, the studio time and all the things that we do to make this podcast possible. So if you'd like to, you can literally subscribe for as low as like $3 a month, real cheap. Whatever you want to do, you can stop at any time. There's no pressure there. But if you'd like to support the show, patreon.com/BFTV. Also, shout out to Level 4 Studio, where I actually record this podcast every single week. They do a beautiful job of helping us out. So if you have a podcast that you like to start yourself, or you need some photography done, or videography, whatever else you need, just make sure you hit up Level 4 Studio. And you can reach out to them on social media as well. You don't even have to be in the state to work with them. So make sure that you hit them up. Today, I have a very exciting guest to talk about growth, healing, and parenting. And my good friend and family member, Shaydrian Bree, is here with me today to discuss this. Can you hear me, Shay?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, welcome to the show. So, just a little bit about her before we jump in and get started today. So Shay grew up in a small town of Texas. And the town is called Bay City, Texas. That's where a lot of my family members are from. And she graduated from high school in 2007. She went straight out of high school to Blaine College, where she completed the nursing program. She's been a nurse for over a decade and is currently working as a director of nursing at an assisted living facility in Houston, Texas. She has went from searching for love to being a single mother to now a wife and mother of 4. Her goal is to uplift others while being completely transparent and inspiring them to be their best selves. She feels like parenting is a purpose, and she is the author of Mommy and Me Success Bible, which can be found on Amazon. We'll talk more about that soon. And this journal was inspired by her children of various ages and is a creative way to interact with and communicate with your children while creating a bond through journaling. So welcome to the show.
Hi.
So excited to have you here, and I'm so excited to talk about parenting. I mean, I don't have any children of my own yet, but hey, as much as I can learn about this, I need all the help that I'm all the help that I can possibly get, especially in the future. So, but
Thank
before
you
we
for
get started
having
today,
me.
of course, we always start with a few icebreaker questions just to let the audience get to know you a little more. So yeah, I got a few tricky ones for you. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. So first one is, what is your favorite fashion trend right now?
Hmm. I guess I had a mommy makeover, so I'm kind of into the crop tops because I was never able to wear one. So I'm into crop tops.
Oh, yeah. I never was either, especially being in church. Nope, you gotta be covered up. I feel like I'm into everything right now. Like everything goes. Like whatever you want to wear put together, it's okay. If you like the 80s, 70s, like all that stuff is like coming back in style. So I'm just kind of with everything right now. Next question. What new hobbies have you picked up as a result of the quarantine during COVID?
Oh my God. I'm always finding something new, but my new thing is the cricket. So I'm always like making something with shirts or on cups, doing things like that. I'm
Mhm.
big on journaling, so I've been doing a lot of journaling here lately.
Good, good. Um, I don't know, what new hobbies have I picked up since? Nothing different. I say the one thing I've done different as a result of being in COVID was podcasting, actually. I don't think I would have gotten a chance to do it otherwise. So, yeah, I definitely will stay podcasting. But that's awesome. So for the audience, we're not going to have any more sponsors for the rest of the season. So I'm not doing any more ads for that. But I did want to take this space to talk through some businesses that are definitely on the rise here in Colorado Springs. So the first one I wanted to shout out was Balloon Pop Studio. That's Balloon Pop Studio. They basically do trendy balloon installs that make your party pop. Okay, so they do corporate events, weddings, baby showers, photo shoots, all those different things. If you don't know how to decorate or what to decorate with, definitely hit up Balloon Pop Studio. You can find them on social media. They actually will be having a location open up very soon in the beginning of May at the Citadel Mall where you can actually go in person and create a custom order. So stay tuned for that, but make sure that you hit up Balloon Pop Studio for all of your party planning needs. The second one I wanted to shout out was Ryan Cook. He is actually a really dope photographer, and he's the owner and creator of Two Dope Shots Photography. He does a myriad of photography services such as maternity shoots, headshots, product photography, fashion portraiture, family portraits, or even a custom package to fit your personal needs. So if you have anything photography related that you need, he does a really good job, has a very, very I don't know, the style of his photography is just one of the coolest things I've ever seen. So make sure that you hit up Two Dope Shots Photography. You can find them on Instagram and Facebooks, Instagram and Facebook, um, and he'll get you squared away. So those are the two people I just wanted to shout out for this week. So getting back to the topic at hand. So our topic today is healing, growth, and parenting. And so I'm really excited to talk about this. And I know that you've had a lot of experiences related to this that you can share and help, some people that are about to be parents or about to go through or currently parents, that they can take with and hopefully apply to, raising their children. So I know that before you actually became, or got to where you are now, you've gone through a number of experiences that led you to some of the realizations and teachings that you have now. Maybe why don't you just start by telling us a little bit about how you grew up?
So I grew up with in a single parent household, mostly with my mom being a working mom. She had four children,
Mhm.
so I have a lot of siblings, and my mom worked mostly two jobs. So it was mostly my brother, sister, and I, and we were raising ourselves
Right. So,
when my mom wasn't there.
mhm. Okay, so you kinda grew up on your own. And was your father in the picture at all when you were younger, or kinda what was your relationship like there?
So I remember meeting my father when I was around 5, I believe, and after that, he was not in the picture. Came back around
Mhm.
when I was 25.
Okay, gotcha. So I imagine, just not really having someone there to lead and guide you, that now you're having to go through life and being a teenager and being an adult, by trial and error trying to figure out things on your own. So eventually you graduate from high school to college. What was that transition like for you?
So I was young. I graduated high school at 17 and I went straight to college. My mom was a nurse, so she kind of pushed me into nursing. So I went to nursing school, and nursing school was different because it's an all day school, kind of like high school. So you're going 8 to 5 and you're doing clinicals, and they're just giving you a busload of information at one time. But while I was in college, I got involved with a guy. He was a drug dealer, and he basically was, now that I look back at it, I kind of looked at him like a father figure almost, because he was like a provider and he was a
Hmm.
lot older than I was.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So
So
you go into college, and your first experience with love and relationships is with a drug dealer. Were you scared? I would have been scared.
I wasn't scared because I guess I was naive. I wasn't
Hmm.
thinking about, what could happen, or and being from a small town, it's like you don't really see like the whole backside of it. You just see, oh, it's money involved, oh, it's a happy life, and you're just going nowhere really fast, so you don't really see the downside of it.
Hmm. Hmm.
So it was
Yeah.
something new.
And I imagine coming through and he's, financially secure and, giving, a few things and paying for things, I think that could make it, especially if you haven't really had the teaching, why would you
Yeah.
not take advantage of that? So how did this relationship, how long did this go on for?
It went on for at least a year,
Hmm.
and it ended right after I graduated college, actually.
Right after you graduated. And what would you say is probably what's the biggest lesson that came out of that? Or what was the most traumatic part of that relationship?
Well, from that relationship, I ended up getting pregnant and I had an abortion. It started off with when I got pregnant, with him being excited to
Mhm.
have a baby with me and him wanting to be there with me. And it kind of ended with him having someone else and him not wanting me to go through with the pregnancy. So it was a lot of emotion there. And I'm graduating college, I'm entering adulthood, and I'm trying to find my way, and I ended up having an abortion because I felt like that would be the best thing for me. And it was kind of better for me to burn that bridge so I wouldn't have to cross it again. That's
Mhm.
how I looked at it at the time, at least.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, and the thing is, a lot of women actually go through this where they're in a tough relationship or a tough situation and they make this decision. Um, did you regret it at all?
I had a lot of time where I went back and forth because I am very spiritual. So it weighed heavy on me as far as I felt like it was murder.
Mhm.
And I had to just tell myself, and I had to talk to God a lot. I repented like over and over and over as if He hadn't already forgiven me. But now looking back at it, I don't regret it, because if I change anything, then I have to change everything.
Mhm. Yeah, right. That would change the whole trajectory of your life probably, and maybe the lesson that came out of it. How did it affect your overall mental health? I know when we had talked before, you mentioned that this kind of weighed on you for quite some time, actually.
Yes, it caused me to kind of be withdrawn at first. And I was very vocal at one point and very just outgoing, but it caused me to kind of be withdrawn and more to myself because I was embarrassed, one, and I hadn't come to forgive myself.
Mhm. Right. So, what made you forgive yourself? How did we get there? Was that later on in life, or was this like right after this happened, or
No, it definitely takes some time. Even now, I still go back to that place sometime. But maybe after my son was born, years later, my
Mhm.
husband suggested therapy, and he offered to get me therapy. And I went through therapy and I learned to love myself. And while I was going through therapy, I was also getting closer to God. And I just learned, that God forgives you, that God had a plan for me. Like He knew that this would come, and He had a plan if I would have went this way or if I would have went this way. So either way, He had a plan for me, and it just worked out the way that it worked out.
Mhm. Yes, that's good to hear. So I have a two-pronged question for you. again, there's so many women that go through this experience, right? And for many of them, it's a traumatizing experience, it's a daunting experience, and they live with a lot of guilt and shame for many, many years. So one, what advice would you give women who are actually contemplating making this decision? And two, for women that have gone through it and are still struggling with, the guilt of a decision like that, what advice would you give for those two
Um,
women?
So the first part, I would just tell them to do what's best for them, to take the outsiders out of the equation, spend
Mhm,
time to themselves, spend time with God if they believe in God, and just do what's best for you. Because at the end of the day, don't nobody have to live with the decision but you.
mhm,
And the second part is forgive yourself. God already has forgiven you, and it's up to you to forgive yourself and live on.
mhm. Exactly. Now, I also want to remind the audience that's watching here today. Again, if you guys want to ask questions, you can certainly post a comment, and I'll try to get to your question, and we'll do that as we go along. So feel free to do that. Shout out to everyone who's commented so far: Traylon, Lovejoy, Angel, Neek. Thank you guys so much for joining us here today. So moving forward, eventually, I know you were kind of progressing forward in your career, moving on with your life. You get a management position and you find yourself married with children at the age of 20. Now that is so fast. Like at 20, I was just trying to get myself together, like, trying not to party so much is really what I was doing at 20. Um, so how did we get there? Walk me through how we got into a married relationship at 20.
Basically, I was just looking for love. And the first thing that looked like love after my past situation was what I hopped on. So my ex-husband and I, we were dating for about 3 months roughly. And he convinced me that it was love, and I thought that it was love, and he wanted to marry me, and it just sounded like it was the right thing for me. It felt right at that time. So I
Mhm,
ended up marrying him shortly after 3 months.
mhm. So it seems like you kind of are getting into these relationships because just of a lack of maybe what was missing in your childhood. Like, do you think that that was in direct relation to absence of a father and maybe just general, you know, parenting when you were younger?
Definitely, through therapy, I later found out that I had a fear of abandonment, and a lot of the relationships that I've been in were
Mhm,
based on that fear of abandonment.
mhm,
And once I got into the relationship, then it felt good. So it was something that I wanted to keep there.
mhm. So now you're married. How soon after the marriage did you guys start to conceive children together?
We did not have kids for 5 years. So it took us 5 years before we had a daughter together.
Oh wow. Okay. And
So when
so,
we actually got together, I had twins already, and they were about 9 months.
oh wow. Okay. Just popping out those twins. It runs in the family, doesn't it?
It does.
So looks like you were with this guy for a while. At what point did you start to realize that it was a toxic relationship? Tell us about maybe some of the things that happened.
Um, what actually happened to split us up was he was he was on drugs, which I did not know at the time. I was naive to the fact of drug use. I had never really witnessed anyone on drugs or how it affected them. And once I did find out that he was using drugs, I basically gave him an ultimatum: either get clean or I was going to have to leave. So I
Hmm.
did end up leaving.
Hmm. Right. So now you have these three beautiful children and you leave the relationship. And so you are a single parent for the very first time.
A
What was
single
that?
parent with a 2 month old.
Wow. That is a lot for that age, for sure, and especially when you're still trying to grow and figure your life out, your career out, it can definitely be a little bit overwhelming, but how did you feel?
So I had to go back to work early because I had to provide for the kids. My daughter was 2 months old, and I got a management position, and I went back to work full throttle. thank God I had a good support system. So my grandmother moved in and kind of helped me to raise the kids, but it was overwhelming at times, and it kind of forced me to grow up. I went from, not knowing how to cook, never cooking, not really cleaning, to having to run a household.
Right. Right. So you're being the house head of the household, you're being a mother now, just all kind of out of nowhere.
Thrown at me.
Yes, for sure. I understand it. So now it seems like this is the point where you actually, you grow, you heal, and you really start to grow into parenthood for sure. Now, before we jump into talking more about parenthood and your book and some of the things that you're working on, um, you eventually reconcile with your father, right? And
Yes.
I do think that there's a lot of young women, not just Black women, but young women in general who do have an absent father, and it does affect them. How did you guys reconcile?
So I was working at a nursing home at the time as a charge nurse, and he walked into the facility. And I kind of looked at him, he looked at me, and I hadn't really seen him since I was a kid. So I'm like, oh my God, that looks like him, and he's looking at me
Who is
like,
this
I
stranger?
know her. And so he comes over to the desk and he's like, wow, you're grown now. And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty grown up. And so that was our first interaction. And at that time I was going through the breakup with my ex-husband, and I reached out to my dad on Facebook, and I just told him like I needed him. I was going through a deep depression, like I was not getting out of my bed. I would go to work smiling and I would come home and just completely shut down.
Hmm.
And I reached out to him through Facebook, and we reconciled, and he kind of gave me the strength that I needed to move forward.
Hmm.
And
What
so
did?
ever since then, we've been inseparable.
Oh, that's so sweet. What did you guys, talk about? Like, what do you think about that reconciliation gave you strength?
It was tough, and we were just talking about this past weekend actually. And he said that I came to him and I was open, which made him more open, that I didn't hold any grudge, that I just wanted to move forward, and I didn't want to speak of the past. I mean, I could have asked him all kind of questions about why he wasn't there, or why he left me, but I knew that I wanted a relationship with him, and I knew that I wanted it to be great, so I just had to move forward.
Hmm. Hmm. I think that's good advice in itself because, again, as I mentioned, there's a lot of people who don't have, a father in the home, and I think it's easy to hold and harbor resentment in your heart. But if anything, I think that makes the reconciliation more difficult. So it's kind of like, do I continue to hold on to this, or just let's forgive and let's move forward with the time that we have left? So I think that's beautiful for sure. So let's talk about your parenting. And so I know one of the things that you mentioned to me, which I thought was, I've never personally thought about this before, and I think maybe some other people haven't. But one of the things that you had said when we did our little talk before, you were kind of saying that sometimes our past traumas or negative things that we haven't dealt with carries over into our parenting. Um, And that's a very big, like, revelation. Like, how did you know that or at what point did you know that that was happening in your relationship with your children?
So my mom was a very good mom. I just want to clear that up. She was very good, and she was a gift giver. I think that
Mhm,
was kind of her love language, so that's what she did to us. And I was never really big on gifts, so I knew that I wanted love, and I
mhm,
always wanted to be loved. So a hug or a kiss or I love you would have just spoke thousands to me more than a gift. And I don't know. I guess about maybe after the twins were about 3 years old, I realized, and that's the age where they start getting into everything. I realized that communication was lacking on my part. Like I didn't know how to communicate. And it was partially because my mom was always so busy. So, and when she wasn't, she was giving, giving, giving to show us love, that she forgot the communication piece. She forgot to show affection. And so I think I was at therapy and I took the love
mhm.
language quiz, and I scored a 0 on physical touch. And my therapist, she looked at me and I think she thought that I had been molested.
Mhm.
And she asked me why didn't I like to be touched? And in that moment, I realized that touching was foreign to me. It wasn't something that I was used to because I wasn't used to getting hugs or kisses and things like that.
Mhm.
And I noticed that when my kids would come up to hug me, it felt weird. Although it felt weird, I still did it, but it was something that I had to learn to do.
Mhm. Wow. So it seems like you actually learned quite a bit in therapy. Like, do you feel like most of your parenting, like, at least your views on parenting, kind of grew from the therapy that you received?
It was, I guess you could say that it was revelation through therapy. Like I didn't really realize why I did what I did until I came to therapy.
Hmm. So is that something you would recommend maybe for all women before they become
Yes,
parents?
I actually push it on everybody, even people that are not parents, because you don't really know what you're suffering for until you start to talk about those things. Like you don't really understand why you're doing what you're doing until someone opens that box.
Hmm. Definitely. So looks like all of us got some therapy to do, including me.
Yes.
So definitely, if you guys can, find someone in your area. There's a lot of resources out here now. Insurances pay for therapy now, actually. So you don't even really have to pay out of pocket too much. So let's and Traylon Eaton says, come on, normalizing therapy for Black women. And that is a good
Yes.
sentiment because, in our community, sometimes therapy is just not the thing. So that is awesome. So what are some other things that you learned or about parenting or things that were revealed to yourself through this process and this growth?
I think a lot of times as moms that we're hard on ourselves. Like we expect to just know, and we weren't given a book on how to parent. So you have to learn as you go. You have things that you're unlearning and things that you're relearning, but just give yourself some grace. Like you won't be perfect. You won't be a perfect parent, but as long as you're a happy parent and a trying parent, your kids will understand.
Mhm. Awesome. So one thing I do wanna ask you, so you have, a blended family. Um, how has that, relationship been bringing you married my cousin, and you already had children. How was that for you guys? How did you guys blend your family in a very, what's the word? I guess in a way that, least disrupts the children's, lives and things like that.
I think it was easier for us because one, he didn't have any kids,
Mhm.
and two, we were friends. So my kids knew him as mommy's friend, and it just became easy because we spend a lot of time together. So it wasn't, having to introduce them to someone new and then having to kind of go through the motion. So it was just friends, and we developed a friendship and a bond, and then he developed a bond with my kids, and then it just grew from there.
Mhm. Gotcha. So you guys already knew. Is there any advice that you would give to maybe people that will be blending their family soon or are in a blended family relationship? How to make that work?
I think it's just like coming from a single parent, you have to learn how to communicate with the other with your partner just to find out what works because we were raised differently. So it's like, okay, I was raised this way, you were raised that way. What works best for us as a whole?
Mhm.
Like not you were raised wrong, I was raised right. You just have to find out what works for your family and come together and respect each other's opinions.
Mhm. So we do have a comment from the audience. So Traylon says, talk about family and boundaries. What are your thoughts about that?
I am not the one to talk about family and boundaries. I'm still I'm still dealing with family and boundaries. I am not big on boundaries, and that stems from my abandonment issues. Like I am working on setting boundaries and keeping boundaries in place because I'm one of those people. If I set a boundary, then maybe they won't. Maybe they'll turn away.
Mhm.
So I'm still working on boundaries.
No, I definitely understand. And I think too is just when you have kids of your own and then you have other people who want to, give their opinions about your parenting. How do you deal with that? Or, is that still something that you're working on?
So now I go to my husband basically, and we talk about it and decide what's best for us. And I've had to tell my people to stay out of my business to let me do this.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely understand that. So it looks like you did a lot of growth and healing, after you had your children, and so you did a lot of that through therapy. Is there anything else that you did that played into your healing to where you are now?
I think my relationship with God, me being able to hear from God just kind of turned my whole purpose. You know, you're always so searching for your purpose and what's my purpose. And I never realized that my purpose was my children until this year, actually. I was in my car and I was having a bad morning because my kids were acting up the previous night. And I clearly heard God say, those children, they're not yours. They're mine. I gave them to you to disciple to them and to give them back to me. So that's kind of where that journal came into play
Oh, well, that's deep.
at. I heard it clearly. Those were not my words.
So what did you change as a result of that experience? What did you do differently?
So I started finding creative ways to interact with them and to bond with them. Started incorporating God a lot more into their lives because I just felt like they needed that foundation. God told me this, and if He told me this, then I have to give them what He gave me.
Mhm. So from this, looks like the Mommy and Me Bible, Success Bible was birthed from this. So tell us a little bit about the book that you put together.
So it's basically an interactive guide for mommies with children, and my girls love it. We actually just sit around and we go through the activities. And one of the activities is the peer pressure walk. And it's kind of being all up in your kids' business without them knowing that you're actually trying to be all up in their business. But you
Mhm.
can use it for all ages. But the peer pressure walk is basically a walk where you throw out some random questions and you tell them to take a step forward if you have done this, take a step to the left if you have done that. And it basically kind of lets you gauge where they're at in life and if they have experienced some type of peer pressure, and it becomes a conversation piece.
Oh, so in this book, it kind of gives you like tools to help reach your children a little bit better and to
Yes.
open up that conversation. Now, in this book, do the children journal as well as you?
Yes, they do journal. They actually get to there's a report card in there, so they get to grade you as well as the parents. So they get to grade you, and we get to talk about that and figure out why they feel this way about these certain things that's on the report card.
Mhm. Wow. I think that that is so creative. I've never heard of that before. So how did you even come up with the idea to begin with?
Because I'm always doing something. I was literally just in Canva, just playing around, and I felt like I needed something to get to my kids, just to interact with them. So I was just thinking of activities, things that I've done over time, just as far as like team building and icebreakers at work, and I just kind of made it my own.
Wow, that is I think that's, really unique, and so for all of you that are listening, if you are a parent or you are expecting a child, maybe it's something good to check into for sure because, you know, I think a lot of us growing up, it's like we're being told, "You don't do this," "Don't do this because it's bad," but sometimes it would be better if you can find a way to connect with that person or with that child who's actually a person. You can't just tell them, "No, don't do this," and never explain why, or not really have the relationship there to be able to talk about the things that you need to talk about, like whether that's, sex or peer pressure from your friends. Like these are things that you want to talk about. And especially if there's things that going on, like you want to make sure that you know about those things and you don't want your child to hide them. So I think that's a really good way to really connect. Um, so for those of you listening, watching, it is streaming across the banner at the bottom, the Mommy and Me Success Bible, and that's on Amazon. So please make sure you guys go purchase and support this. Um, I just think that's so creative. What else is in the book besides the journal and maybe the one activity?
So there's everyday pages to kind of help you to like, I guess whenever I was growing up, I didn't have my mom there when I got home to ask me how my day was. So
Mhm.
it's just asking those type of questions that you're not really comfortable with, or maybe you are comfortable with, but it helps you to kind of journal so that you can have something to look back on. So let's say your kid starts their cycle at school, and when they come home, you want to talk about that. That helps open up that communication, helps you teach about it, and you're documenting it. So whenever they're older, you can go back and look at it.
Oh, that's really nice. So
So
Traylon says, discuss your kids' testimonial experiences, how the book is helpful for them. What feedback have you gotten?
the book is helpful. Haley and Kaylee, my 11-year-old twins, I forgot their ages for a minute. They will go through the whole book. I have to kind of tell them, no, we're only going to do a few pages, but I think it gives them and a lot of times they're afraid to speak out because they don't know what you're going to say, but it makes it fun. And so they're going to be more open to say what's on their mind.
Mhm, mhm. And what differences have you seen in your relationship, with your kids from before you started doing this to, now?
I find that they're more vocal. Before you can ask them a question and it was like a yes or no. Now they're elaborating more and they're more open to share with me. Like, for instance, they were doing homeschool, they were doing virtual.
Mhm.
And they just went back to class. And when they came home, they were like, oh my God. They came to me and my husband and they were like, those kids at my school, they curse like grown-ups. And I'm like, before they would never even tell us what happens at school, but they're telling us about the kids and they're cursing like grown-ups. And him and I, we were like high-fiving each other when they left the room because that means that they are not cursing like grown-ups because they were so shocked.
You're like, "Ooh, we're raising them right. This is
Yeah, we
working."
are doing something right. So we were high-fiving each other and we were thinking about it. And we were like, when we were in school, everyone was cursing like grown-ups,
Mhm,
So
mhm, yep.
just to know that that everything that we're teaching them, that they are going out into the world and that they're upholding their values.
Mhm. And does it have, like, biblical references in it or
It does not, because some parents aren't biblical, so
Mhm,
it doesn't. I do a lot of like family devotionals with them
mhm.
outside of the book.
Okay. Yeah, that's good. And either way, anyone can use it. But yeah, thank you for sharing that. It actually goes into one of the audience members' questions. Does it help them transfer learned skills into school context? Sounds like it definitely does, based on what you're telling
Definitely.
me. Like they're definitely taking, what they're learning from this experience, with their parents and definitely bringing that to school. So one of the things you mentioned, so you are really doing a lot of things. You have your businesses on the side, you have your career, you have this book, and now you're working on a podcast now. So you'll be a fellow podcaster like me.
Yes, so you are bringing me out of my comfort zone, and I feel like that God ordained this because I was nervous, but you are bringing me into comfort. So I'm excited about what's to come with the Mommy and Me podcast.
That's perfect. I think that, the world needs, more information and, to be able to honestly talk about some of the struggles that people have with parenting. 'Cause sometimes with cancel culture and the way things are now, you can't always just speak up and say what it is you're struggling with before people are like, "Oh, that's terrible. Parenting is great." And it's like, "No, it's really not." And this is what I'm struggling with. So I think it's wonderful. So when can the audience expect to hear from you about your podcast?
So I will be keeping you guys updated through my platforms, but it is coming soon.
Okay, so coming soon, 2021 or 2022-ish?
2022, looking 2022-ish.
Okay,
I want to make sure
2022-ish.
everything is right.
A few more questions about just kind of so your suggestions with regards to parenting. So Angel says, any suggestions on devotion books for kids?
So I actually use the Kindle app on my phone, and it has a family devotional there, and I think it's called Family Devotional, and it goes through the Bible stories, and it has like different games and interactive questions that you can ask the kids. So I normally sit down at the table with the kids. We pull out the app, and you're able to read the Bible lessons and read the scriptures, and then you're able to ask the question based on the app. And the girls really, really like that.
Wow. Okay. That's a good suggestion. And final question here, and then we'll move on. How do the little ones express happy feelings from the book?
Oh, well, Heaven, my 7-year old, she's always been expressive, so the book just is right up her alley. But she takes over. Um, but as far as the book, the report card I think was her favorite part because she gets to tell me that I suck as a parent or I failed for the week and why because I didn't let her have this or I didn't let her do that. So that's one thing that the little one, well, Heaven enjoys. And with my 2-year old, I ask him most questions, but he's very vocal because I always ask him how he feels. Or before we sit at the table for our devotional, we go around the table and say, "How was your day?" And
Hmm.
so he looks forward to saying, "How was your day, mommy? How was your
Oh.
day?" And so I think it's just teaching them communication and how to have a voice. Like you don't
Hmm.
have to be talked at. You can talk and you can express your feelings. You can express yourself.
So that actually leads into maybe one other question I have too for you. How do you discipline your children without feeling like you're taking away their voice?
It's hard. It is hard. And sometimes I cry at night to my husband because I feel like I've done something wrong. So, and I'm a crybaby. You have to make me cry. But no, it's hard to do that. And I pray about it a lot and just ask God to show me that I'm doing it right. Show me the way in which you would have me go. So I tell them whenever I'm mad, don't have a rebuttal. Wait until I've calmed down and then come to me and say, "Well, mommy, I didn't like when you did this."
Hmm.
But don't do it in the midst of me fussing or or
Hmm.
disciplining them.
Hmm. Good to know. Um, so as it pertains to our topic today, we definitely talked about, some of the things that you dealt with that kind of led into, you know, negative things that maybe trickled into your parenting. We talked about, how you dealt with those situations to become a better parent and tools that you've created to basically be able to connect with your children and have an open and real, honest relationship and communication with them. What other advice would you give parents that are maybe struggling with this, or maybe they don't know how to get started? What final advice would you give?
I think I would just tell them to first heal themselves and look for outlets. Like you have to have a support system, whether it's a friend that you're calling on the phone saying, "Girl, I'm tired of these kids," or if it's God just praying, you have to have some type of outlet. And don't be afraid to say that it's hard, or don't be afraid to ask for help because it does get hard. It is challenging. It's not like what you see on TV, and you may look at one parent and think, "Oh my gosh, she has it all figured out." Nobody has it all figured out. We're all just learning. So give yourself be patient with yourself and give yourself time to learn and grow.
That is wonderful advice. I know you guys can't see me, but technical difficulties, it's all good. It happens from time to time. All right. And Shay, where can people go and follow you on social media?
So if you are religious and you're looking for God vibes, you can find me at Full Circle God Vibes on all platforms. And if you just want to follow my personal page, you can find me at Shaydrian Bree on Facebook and Shaydrian Eden underscore Bree on Instagram. I also do have a TikTok. My kids have put me onto TikTok. So if you want to follow me on TikTok, you can follow me at Shaydrian Bree on TikTok.
Awesome. Please follow her on TikTok. It's funny. I've been thinking about TikTok. I'm like, oh, I'm barely managing the social media that I have now. And I don't know how to
People.
do all those fancy dances people be doing.
Well, it's not just dances. Like my kids laughed at me when they saw me watching TikTok, but it's lots of like hacks and like like cleaning tools and all kind of things that they put on there. So I'm
Yeah.
always like, "Oh, we can clean the stove like this. Oh, this is for the baseboards." So I'm ordering things on Amazon.
Yeah, I think more of what I've been seeing is just the dance stuff, and I'm like, the only thing I know how to do is the church move side to side, two step, and I can twerk a little bit, and that's about the extent of my dancing abilities. So I'm like, I don't know if I can get on TikTok. We'll have to see.
No, I can't even clap on beat, so no.
Y'all be surprised. Like dancing is not a full on just black thing. Like some of us struggle. Okay, just cut us some slack. Well, thank you so much for joining the show and just sharing and being, really open and honest about your struggles. I know it can be tough to come out and talk about things that you've dealt with personally, like an abortion, things like that. Like that's tough to share. So I really appreciate you coming on and just giving advice and, sharing with the amazing BFTV community. So that kind of wraps our show for today, guys. Just make sure again that you are liking, that you are sharing, that you are commenting with all of your friends. We definitely want to grow the podcast network as much as we possibly can. And we want to get the message out that it's never too late to change or fix the situation, just as we learned today with the topic that we discussed. Make sure that you are following the show on social media. At Back and Forth TV is the handle. So we're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, all that stuff. So make sure that you're following that. And again, streaming on all major platforms. So whatever you use, just make sure that you rate and review us, of course. And again, shout out to Level 4 Studio for all the wonderful work that they do to support my show. And I really appreciate it. And until next time, actually, hold on. I always read a quote. I almost forgot it before closing. So the quote I have here, it says, encourage and support your kids because children are apt to live up to what you believe of them. And that's from Lady Bird Johnson.
I like
And
that.
so, yeah, isn't it cute? So that is our show for today. And I will see you all next week.